The most discussed world news of May 2017.
The news are:
Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, retires from royal duties. Trump fires FBI Director Comey, raising questions over Russia investigation. Emmanuel Macron was elected French president on May 7. Let's watch the news.
Protesters shattered business windows, set bonfires in the streets and vandalized a police car Monday afternoon in downtown Portland as a May Day protest devolved into a short-lived but chaotic riot, where police cancelled protest permits, arrested numerous people and used gas and non-lethal weapons against demonstrators whom they described as anarchists. Other May Day gatherings around the world were relatively peaceful, but police geared up for confrontations in the Pacific Northwest's biggest cities, Portland and Seattle, where previous protests have created havoc. Rallies began at noon in Portland. Police reported that members of an anarchist group began throwing rocks, lead balls, full cans of soda, glass bottles and incendiary devices late in the afternoon. Authorities cancelled parade and protests permits about 4:30 p.m. May Day protests turned violent Monday in Portland, Oregon, where police cancelled protest permits, arrested numerous people and used gas and non-lethal weapons against demonstrators whom they described as anarchists. Police would confirm only that at least 3 people had been arrested, but NBC affiliate KGW reported that many more people could be seen detained lying on the street. Organizers told KGW that they didn't believe the self-described anarchists intended to spur violence. They are doing their own thing, according to Lily Elba, a spokeswoman for the Portland May Day Coalition. In Seattle, the scene of routinely tense protests ever since, riots protesting the World Trade Organization put the city at the forefront of liberal activism in 1999, police said they were expecting multiple, unpermitted events through the evening. In a statement made by Queen Elizabeth while Shii's private secretary early Thursday morning, it was announced that Prince Philip has decided that he will no longer carry out public engagements from the autumn of this year. In taking this decision, the Duke has the full support of the Queen. The Duke of Edinburgh, 95, will attend previously scheduled engagements between now and August, both individually and accompanying the Queen, the statement continued. Thereafter, the Duke will not be accepting new invitations for visits and engagements, although he may still choose to attend certain public events from time to time. The Duke of Edinburgh is patron, president or a member of over 780 organizations, with which he will continue to be associated, although he will no longer play an active role by attending engagements, the palace said. Her Majesty will continue to carry out a full program of official engagements with the support of members of the royal family. Earlier, the Daily Mail reported that Her Majesty's senior aides called for a household meeting. Servants from the royal homes across the UK were said to have been told to head to London. And while meetings like Wednesday's aren't entirely unheard of, it appears that the nature of the timing led many to speculate about what was going on behind closed doors. Although meetings involving the entire household are occasionally called, the way this has been done at the 11th hour is highly unusual and suggests that there is something major to be disseminated, a source told the Daily Mail. Emmanuel Macron was elected French president on Sunday with a business-friendly vision of European integration, defeating Marine Le Pen, a far-right nationalist who threatened to take France out of the European Union. The centrists' emphatic victory, which also smashed the dominance of France's mainstream parties, will bring huge relief to European allies who had feared another populist upheaval to follow Britain's vote to quit the EU and Donald Trump's election as US president. With virtually all votes counted, Macron had topped 66% against just under 34% for Le Pen, a gap wider than the 20 or so percentage points that pre-election surveys had suggested. Even so, it was a record performance for the National Front, a party whose anti-immigrant policies once made it a pariah, and underlined the scale of the divisions that Macron must now try to heal. After winning the first round 2 weeks ago, Macron had been accused of behaving as if he was already president. On Sunday night, with victory finally sealed, he was much more solemn. I know the divisions in our nation, which have led some to vote for the extremes. I respect them, Macron said in an address at his campaign headquarters, shown live on television. I know the anger, the anxiety, the doubts that very many of you have also expressed. It's my responsibility to hear them, he said. I will work to recreate the link between Europe and its peoples, between Europe and citizens. Later he strode alone almost grimly through the courtyard of the Louvre Palace in central Paris to the strains of the EU anthem, Beethoven's Ode to Joy, not breaking into a smile until he mounted the stage of his victory rally to the cheers of his partying supporters. His immediate challenge will be to secure a majority in next month's parliamentary election for a political movement that is barely a year old, rebranded as La République and March Onward the Republic, in order to implement his program. With a crashing economy and ever more controls, by the communists or socialists in control, Venezuela is headed for even more turmoil if not revolution. Record high inflation, food shortages and deadly protests are gripping Venezuela, once considered South America's richest nation. Now it's on the verge of collapse as its people demand economic reform and an end to the country's authoritarian rule. Although the country has more oil underground than Saudi Arabia, it is facing desperate times with people queuing for hours for basic food and provisions. Citizens are out in force protesting against President Nicolas Maduro's government, which is crushing dissenters while working to maintain its grip on power. The situation is becoming increasingly violent as riot police confront the demonstrators. Over the past month, nearly 40 people have been killed. Vladimir Hernandez has spent a day out on the streets of the capital Caracas. So for a country so rich in natural resources, how did it go so wrong? Russia has sought to show off its military might during a Victory Day parade in Moscow as Vladimir Putin declared the armed forces of Russia are capable of repelling any potential aggression. The parade, featuring tanks, intercontinental ballistic missiles and troops in tight formation, was part of celebrations marking the anniversary of the surrender of Nazi Germany in the Second World War, Russia's most important secular holiday. But thick cloud cover forced the cancellation of the traditional dramatic conclusion to festivities, a flyover by military aircraft and display teams. The parade is a highly ritualist display and marked changes in its order are unusual. The Defense Ministry had said cloud-seeding planes would be deployed to disperse the overcast skies Tuesday above Moscow, as has been done previously when poor weather threatened. President Vladimir Putin said in his parade address that we feel a piercing blood relationship with a generation of heroes and winners. He also called for consolidation of the entire international community to combat terrorism and extremism. Russian Marines, Arctic vehicles and artillery were all on show, as well as historic T-34 tanks that were influential on Second World War battlefields. A number of missile launchers also trundled across Red Square. Donald Trump has fired James Comey as FBI director in a move that has raised concerns over the independence of the Bureau's investigation into links between the Trump campaign and Russia in the run-up to last year's U.S. presidential election. The president cited Comey's handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation as the reason behind his decision, but Democrats were quick to cry foul, and there were vociferous demands for a special prosecutor to be appointed to oversee the Russia inquiry. One Senate Democrat described the move as Nixonian. On Tuesday, CNN reported that a grand jury had begun issuing subpoenas to associates of Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor at the center of the ongoing inquiry into Russian meddling in the election. If confirmed, the report suggests that the FBI's investigation into the Trump camp's links with Moscow has entered a significant new phase. In a letter to Comey, the president wrote, "While I greatly appreciate you informing me, on 3 separate occasions, that I am not under investigation, I nevertheless concur with the judgment of the Department of Justice that you are not able to effectively lead the Bureau. It is essential that we find new leadership for the FBI that restores public trust and confidence in its vital law enforcement mission." A statement from the White House said, "Today, President Donald J. Trump informed FBI Director James Comey that he has been terminated and removed from office." President Trump acted based on the clear recommendations of both Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and Attorney General Jeff Sessions. "The search for the next head of our crown jewel of law enforcement will begin immediately," the statement said. Comey's deputy, Andrew McCabe, takes over in the interim. Comey, 56, who was nominated by Barack Obama in 2013 to a 10-year term, reportedly found out he had been fired from breaking news alerts on TV screens as he delivered a speech to FBI staff in Los Angeles. He was caught flat-footed but carried on talking to the agents, the Los Angeles Times reported. Comey's dismissal raises questions over the future of the FBI's investigation into alleged ties between Trump associates and Russia during the presidential election.